And of course, the line stays open as Cishek inherits the runner at second in Starling Marte. This is a fluid bullpen.
Oh my God! Oh no.
Buck Showalter is immediately out. We talked about how this was a really tense game yesterday.
And both dugouts are out there on the field.
Dugouts have cleared. Bullpens are coming out now. 3 Mets hit by a pitch yesterday against the Nationals. It sounded like Buck and Dave had cleared the air. They know that they're trying to find a grip on these new baseballs, and it's just really tough. But you've got a star like Lindor. You're trying to see him have a turnaround year with this club that he has signed such a big contract with.
Important to note, though, that was scary to see Lindor go down, but he is up, he is walking around, he's staying on the perimeter of that scrum.
And you've got veterans like Nelson Cruz who are going to keep people at bay right now. Pete Alonso got lucky yesterday as that ricocheted again right off the ear flap. He had a busted up lip. He was negative for concussion protocol. You see Eric Young Jr., Soto, a couple other guys who are taking the time to check on Lindor. Alonso, we mentioned, he was one of the ones hit. He's not going to be happy about this either.
So as the broadcaster says, there's a history. It's 1 day old, but it's still a history. That said, here's the rules analysis. Rule 609C9 states intentionally pitch at batter. This is the rule that it has to be intentional in order to eject the pitcher or the pitcher and the manager. For warnings, you can issue a warning whether or not it's intentional, just to head something off. It's your call. You can issue warnings at any time. But to actually eject someone for a hit by pitch, throwing at incident, it has to be intentionally pitched at the batter.
But at the same time, a few guys have been hit. You saw Alonso get hit yesterday up high. You have your guy Lindor get hit up high. And it's sooner or later, tensions flare and guys get fed up. And they say, hey, man, if you can't throw inside, don't try to come in there because it's very dangerous.
So it looks like they're getting some separation here now. They've checked Lindor. He looks like he's got all of his teeth.
Remember, as an umpire game management-wise, you want to separate the teams by halves. It doesn't have to be a straight line. Sometimes it can't be, but just get them separated.
Oh, my God.
And you hear this immediately. Lindor trying to get out of the way of this. Don't be fooled. That didn't hit the bat and ricochet. That was right up and in, and you get a lot of that. Lindor has the mic on him. That chain has been wrapped around it all night, so you are right in the thick of things when you're hearing that. And again, it's cold. The temperatures have dropped significantly since first pitch, so maintaining that control. Whole team immediately out behind Buck. He talked about how quickly he built a bond and they've gotten to know and respect each other, and how much this shortstop has come around to really mesh with the vibes of that clubhouse. And he's squatted over right now with the training staff. They're out at the lip of the circle.
It's just very scary, but thankfully that may be 2 times in 2 days that chin strap has saved somebody. I mean, these guys are, throwing gas. Cishek throws 90 miles an hour. I mean, you have 90 miles an hour off the chin. That can take you out.
And you take a look at what happened last night. Patrick Corbin, and Buck said, it gets you on the foot. You understand that one. But then here, diving out of the way again goes McCann and Pete Alonso. And that's what scares you right there. Again, this is not intentional, but when you start talking about a hand is bad enough because that can take you out of lineup for a couple days, but when you're playing around the face, the head, you're entering concussion protocol, you're wondering, is it more than that? Do you have a broken nose? Do you have to go do something else? So Showalter's looking at his possible selections here.
We saw how mad Buck was about this just with the Pete Alonso and the 2 James McCann hit by pitches. I think Major League Baseball has a serious issue on their hands. They crack down on sticky stuff. They crack down harder ahead of this season. That's important to note. So mid-season last year, they said, we're going to start checking pitchers for sticky stuff. They checked their hat and their belt and their gloves. Ahead of this season, they said, we're going to check your hands, because they thought that by the end of last year, guys had started using it again. They'd found some way to get around the rules. Doesn't seem like they're getting around the rules, but it seems like we have a whole new problem that could be significantly more dangerous.
It's a good point, sort of a paradoxical goal of don't use substances to grip the ball, but also crack down on throwing at incidents, similar to having shorter games but tweaking things to generate more offense. It just doesn't really flow. Rules-wise, however, for this play, it all goes back to is it intentional or not? It's the pitcher's first batter of the game, no warnings to that point. Watch the reactions here, try to figure it out.
To come in when you see plays like this, and Lindor might have been a good thing, CY, that he had the bat up in that bunt position instead of being fully open.
He does. It's just being in a position to bunt. Your body is more square to the plate, and you're more vulnerable to something bad happening.
And now Cishek had been standing on the mound. You're hearing the boos again because he came pretty aggressively off towards, it looks like Buck Showalter may have said something else. Martinez is going to come get his guy, and Cishek is leaving the game. And now Martinez has the unfortunate situation. He only brought his reliever in. He only gets to face Lindor, and he's got to burn through this fluid selection of bullpen guys once more, as he doesn't have anybody yet named to their assigned slots.
And I understand, Buck doing his job right here, protecting his players. At the same time, there's zero reason for the Nationals to be trying to hit the Mets right now. Maybe if it was vice versa and the Mets hitting the Nationals guy, I could see that. But Cishek in this situation, you're fresh into the game. Your second game of the season. There's no way that you're not trying to hit Lindor in this situation. And now we're saying that if you make a mistake and just make a mistake pitch and hit somebody, you could potentially get thrown out the game. I'm sorry, I don't agree with it in this moment.
First career ejection for Cishek, first career ejection for Disarcina. For me, there must have been something more than what I'm seeing here.
I think Cishek got ejected because of his actions after the pitch and not because he intentionally threw at him, because I don't think he did intentionally throw at him. So I think Crew Chief Mark Carlson did an excellent job here. You want to get rid of the aggressor. You want to stop future problems. And this was the fourth time somebody got hit in 2 days. You can't predict the future, but you want to stop this situation from getting any worse. So I think that's why Cishek got ejected.
Yeah, so you said
he kind of came off the mound and said, come on, like that kind of aggression baseball does not want. And they want all four umpires to get together and discuss the situation, and I think that's what happened.
Well, and that was my next question, was what were his actions afterward that would have warranted that, as the pitch fouled away after D. Gordon ground out. But when you look back at that, you mentioned managing the managers. What are those conversations usually being had between the two skips and the umpiring crew?
The one manager says this was on purpose, and the other manager whose pitcher's on the mound says it wasn't. So you almost have to decipher, what you think happened. It's very hard to get into a pitcher's head. You have to take the situation into consideration, and anything happened in the past. Some of them are easy. The guy hits a couple home runs and the next guy gets hit. When he does it on purpose, it's easy. When he doesn't do it on purpose and the ball gets away from him, then you have to start, well, are they going to retaliate? Are they not going to retaliate? So we're really trying to predict what's going to happen in the future.
Scherzer with 2 outs, and the 1-2. He gets Hernandez to chase. It's another strikeout for Max Scherzer. Clean 3 up, 3 down in the 5th. And again, thank you to Brian Gorman for explaining all of that for us. Mets on top by a run on Friday Night Baseball.